The passengers aboard transatlantic Flight 447 thought they knew exactly who Miranda Chen was. For 14 months, she had been the invisible flight attendant who served their meals and ensured their comfort with quiet efficiency. With her stunning blonde hair pulled back in regulation airline style, and her ice blue eyes that seemed to notice everything while revealing nothing, she moved through the aircraft cabin like a ghost, present but unremarkable, professional but forgettable. Captain Thomas Bradley barely acknowledged her existence as she completed pre-flight safety checks in the main cabin. The veteran pilot was focused on reviewing weather patterns with his crew, discussing the route that would take them from JFK to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. Around them, the pristine surfaces of the Boeing 777 reflected the bright cabin lighting that would soon be dimmed for the overnight transatlantic crossing. "Weather looks favorable over the Atlantic," Captain Bradley said to First Officer Sarah Martinez, his voice carrying the authority of someone with 30 years of commercial aviation experience. "We should have smooth sailing once we clear the eastern seaboard." Miranda moved silently between passenger sections, checking emergency equipment and ensuring compliance with international safety protocols. Her hands worked with practiced efficiency, but her ice blue eyes tracked every conversation, every passenger behavior pattern, every security detail casually observed. She had perfected the art of being invisible, a skill that had served her well during her 14-month assignment aboard commercial aircraft. Chief Flight Attendant Williams glanced up from her passenger manifest as Miranda approached to review seating arrangements. "Chen, you're covering first-class service tonight," she said professionally, already turning back to her coordination with ground crew. To her, Miranda was simply another reliable crew member who maintained high standards without drawing attention. The evening routine continued with clockwork precision. Passengers boarded, stowed their belongings, received safety demonstrations, and settled in for the 7-hour flight to Paris. Miranda served them all with the same quiet efficiency, her presence so consistently unremarkable that she had become virtually invisible to even the most security-conscious travelers. "Chen, the first-class galley needs additional meal preparation," called Senior Flight Attendant Johnson from behind the service counter. The experienced crew coordinator who supervised cabin operations treated her with professional courtesy, but like the others, she saw only what Miranda allowed her to see, a competent flight attendant who kept her head down and did her job without complaint. Miranda nodded and gathered service materials, moving toward the premium cabin where business executives and government officials required the highest levels of personal attention. As she worked, she moved among passengers whose conversations often touched on sensitive topics, each exchange providing insights into business dealings, political discussions, and personal information that could be valuable to the right intelligence analysts. In the main cabin, she assisted with routine passenger services while overhearing discussions about upcoming international conferences, diplomatic meetings, and business negotiations. The travelers spoke freely around her, treating her presence as they would any other piece of airline infrastructure. "The Brussels conference will require enhanced security protocols," one State Department official was explaining to his colleague. "Intelligence suggests several hostile actors may attempt to disrupt the proceedings." Miranda updated passenger requests in her service notes, but her trained mind cataloged the security implications being discussed. These conversations, seemingly routine to the participants, formed patterns that revealed operational information she had been positioned to monitor and assess. Captain Bradley's voice came over the cabin intercom as they reached cruising altitude. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've leveled off at 37,000 feet. Weather conditions are favorable, and we're expecting a smooth flight to Paris with an arrival time of 11:45 local time." Miranda finished coordinating meal services and moved toward the aircraft's communication systems, where she began her secondary duties monitoring passenger communications and behavioral patterns. But behind her unremarkable flight attendant exterior, she processed information with the analytical skills of someone trained in intelligence gathering and threat assessment. The aircraft operated like a precision commercial instrument during the evening service hours. Miranda worked alongside 5 other flight attendants, all of whom had been thoroughly vetted by airline security. None of them knew that the quiet blonde woman serving beverages beside them possessed intelligence qualifications and operational experience that exceeded most government security personnel. "Chen, there's a passenger in 12A requesting additional information about connecting flights in Paris," Senior Flight Attendant Johnson announced. "Handle it discreetly." He mentioned something about sensitive timing. Miranda acknowledged the assignment with a simple nod. Passengers with sensitive timing often represented exactly the kind of intelligence-gathering opportunity she had been positioned to exploit. For 14 months she had been building comprehensive profiles of international travelers whose activities intersected with national security interests, As the cabin service concluded and most passengers settled in for the overnight flight, Miranda cleaned her work area with the same attention to detail she applied to every task. Around her, the other flight attendants discussed personal plans for their Paris layover, normal conversations that reinforced her carefully constructed cover identity. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson approached her station, reviewing the passenger service reports. "The overnight service runs smoothly when everyone follows protocol," she said. "Maintain standard monitoring procedures until we begin descent preparation." Miranda had been maintaining much more than standard monitoring procedures for 14 months. She knew the travel patterns, security protocols, and behavioral indicators that governed international aviation security. Each flight provided another opportunity to observe and document patterns that might reveal threats to aviation safety or national security interests. The flight preparation had included specialized passenger screening that Miranda observed with professional interest. Advanced behavioral analysis protocols were being implemented for certain international routes, designed to identify potential security threats through subtle indicators that conventional screening might miss. During the boarding process, Miranda had noted several passengers whose behavior patterns warranted additional attention. Travel documents that appeared authentic but showed signs of sophisticated forgery, nervous behaviors that exceeded normal flight anxiety, coordination between passengers who appeared to be traveling separately but showed subtle signs of prior association. Chen, Passenger 23C has requested assistance with his carry-on storage, Chief Flight Attendant Williams announced. He seems particularly concerned about the security of his briefcase. Miranda moved toward the indicated passenger, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit who was attempting to secure a metal briefcase in the overhead compartment with unusual care. His hands trembled slightly as he arranged other passengers' belongings to create additional space for his case. "Sir, may I assist you with that?" Miranda offered, her voice carrying the professional courtesy expected from airline staff. The man looked up sharply, his eyes showing a flash of something that might have been fear or guilt before settling into forced calm. "Thank you, but I can manage. This case contains sensitive business documents that require careful handling." Miranda stepped back respectfully, but her trained observation had already noted several concerning details. The briefcase's weight distribution suggested contents more substantial than documents. The locking mechanism was more sophisticated than typically used for business materials. Most significantly, the man's behavior indicated knowledge of airline security protocols that exceeded what most passengers possessed. "Of course, sir. Please let me know if you need any assistance during the flight," she replied, maintaining her professional demeanor while mentally cataloging the passenger for further observation. As she moved through the cabin, Miranda identified two additional passengers whose behavior raised intelligence concerns. A woman in 15B, who had boarded last, but somehow secured upgraded seating without appearing on the original manifest. Her passport showed recent travel stamps from countries known for harboring hostile intelligence operations. The third suspicious passenger sat in 31F, an aisle seat that provided optimal observation of both cabin exits and flight crew movements. He appeared to be sleeping, but Miranda noticed his breathing pattern remained too regular, and his positioning allowed him to monitor passenger and crew activities without appearing to do so. Standard international protocols require discrete monitoring of certain passenger categories, Miranda reflected, her training automatically activating threat assessment procedures she had learned during intelligence preparation courses that weren't part of standard flight attendant education. The first 4 hours of the flight proceeded normally on the surface, but Miranda maintained heightened awareness of the 3 passengers she had identified. Their behavior patterns continued to suggest coordination and preparation that exceeded normal travel requirements. At 200 hours, approximately halfway through the flight, the situation began to develop complications that would test every aspect of Miranda's dual role as both flight attendant and intelligence operative. The passenger in 23C requested permission to access his briefcase from the overhead compartment, citing medical needs that required medication stored inside. Standard airline policy prohibited access to stowed luggage during flight, but medical emergencies created exceptions that required careful evaluation. "Sir, if you require medication, I can retrieve your briefcase under medical emergency protocols," Miranda offered, recognizing the opportunity to examine the case more closely while maintaining her cover role. "No, that won't be necessary," the man replied quickly, his response confirming Miranda's suspicions about the briefcase contents. "I'll manage without it until we land." Miranda noted the contradiction between his claimed medical need and his immediate withdrawal of the request. Passengers with genuine medical emergencies didn't typically change their minds about accessing necessary medication. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson approached Miranda's position. "Chen, we're receiving reports of communication equipment interference in the forward cabin. Passengers are complaining about disrupted cell phone and Wi-Fi service." Miranda's intelligence training immediately recognized the implications. Communication jamming equipment could be used to prevent passengers from reporting emergency situations or to isolate the aircraft from ground-based monitoring systems. "I'll investigate the technical issue," Miranda replied, though her actual intention involved examining whether any of her suspicious passengers might be operating electronic devices capable of generating such interference. Moving through the cabin with apparent concern for passenger comfort, Miranda systematically observed each of the 3 passengers she had identified. The woman in 15B was using a tablet device that appeared standard, but was connected to external equipment concealed in her carry-on bag. The passenger in 31F had activated what looked like a standard laptop, but was running software that didn't match typical passenger entertainment or business applications. At 0247 hours, Captain Bradley's voice came over the cabin intercom with an announcement that immediately changed the atmosphere aboard Flight 447. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some technical difficulties with our navigation systems. As a precautionary measure, we're implementing enhanced communication protocols with air traffic control." Miranda understood the coded language. Technical difficulties with navigation systems often indicated potential security threats that required coordinated response from both aircrew and ground-based authorities. Enhanced communication protocols meant they were likely being monitored by military aircraft and security agencies. The cabin remained calm, as most passengers interpreted the announcement as routine mechanical issues, but Miranda noticed immediate reactions from her 3 suspicious passengers. The man with the briefcase began subtle hand signals directed toward the woman in 15B. The passenger in 31F closed his laptop and shifted to a position that provided better surveillance of cabin emergency exits. Chief Flight Attendant Williams approached Miranda with obvious concern. "Chen, the cockpit is requesting passenger manifest verification and confirmation of any unusual behavior or security concerns. They want discreet reports on anyone who seems out of place." Miranda recognized this as an opportunity to provide intelligence about her observations without revealing her true qualifications. "Williams, I've noticed some passengers with communication equipment that might be interfering with aircraft systems. Should I recommend they power down their devices?" Williams considered this suggestion. "Which passengers specifically?" Miranda provided seat numbers for her 3 suspicious passengers, describing their equipment and behavior in terms that would support standard airline security protocols, while masking her advanced threat assessment capabilities. "I'll coordinate with the cockpit," Williams decided. "Monitor those passengers and report any changes in their behavior immediately." As the flight continued, the technical difficulties escalated. Cabin lighting began fluctuating intermittently. The in-flight entertainment systems experienced periodic outages. Most concerning, the aircraft's communication with air traffic control became increasingly unreliable. Miranda's training in electronic warfare and communication systems allowed her to recognize these symptoms as consistent with sophisticated jamming equipment designed to disrupt aircraft operations, while maintaining plausible deniability about mechanical failures. At 0312 hours, the situation reached a critical point when Captain Bradley made another announcement. "Flight attendants to emergency stations. We're experiencing navigation system failures that require implementation of manual flight procedures." Miranda moved to her assigned emergency station while maintaining observation of her suspicious passengers. Their reactions confirmed her assessment. Rather than showing normal passenger concern about flight safety, they displayed the calm alertness of individuals who had anticipated these developments. The passenger with the briefcase stood and moved toward the forward lavatory, but his path took him past the cockpit door where he paused briefly. Miranda recognized this as a potential reconnaissance mission designed to assess cockpit security measures. "Sir, please return to your seat," Miranda called out, maintaining her flight attendant role while positioning herself to block his access to the aircraft's most secure areas. "I just need to use the facilities," the man replied, but his hesitation and the way his eyes scanned the cockpit door suggested other priorities. Miranda accompanied him to ensure he proceeded directly to the lavatory without opportunity for additional reconnaissance. Her positioning allowed her to observe his behavior while maintaining the appearance of standard passenger assistance. During this interaction, she noticed the woman in 15B had activated additional electronic equipment and was apparently coordinating with external contacts through encrypted communication methods that bypassed the aircraft's standard systems. Chief Flight Attendant Williams appeared beside Miranda as the suspicious passenger returned to his seat. "Chen, the cockpit reports navigation systems are stabilizing, but they want enhanced monitoring of passenger activities, specifically any use of electronic devices that weren't declared during security screening." Miranda recognized this as authorization to implement more aggressive observation protocols. "Williams, I believe some passengers may be operating equipment that's interfering with aircraft systems. Should we consider confiscating unauthorized devices?" Williams paused, clearly weighing the implications of such action. "What kind of equipment are we talking about? Communication jamming devices, electronic warfare equipment, potentially navigation disruption systems," Miranda replied, drawing on her intelligence training to provide accurate technical assessments. Williams stared at her. "Chen, how do you know about those types of devices? That's not standard flight attendant training." Miranda realized she had revealed knowledge beyond her cover identity's supposed qualifications, creating a situation that would require careful explanation without compromising her mission. Miranda faced a critical decision point as Chief Flight Attendant Williams waited for an explanation of her unexpectedly sophisticated technical knowledge. 14 months of maintaining perfect cover identity had brought her to this moment where operational necessities might require revealing capabilities that would permanently compromise her mission. "Williams, I had some technical training before joining the airline," Miranda replied carefully, providing a response that was truthful while concealing the extent and nature of her actual qualifications. "Communications equipment interference is something I learned to recognize in my previous work." Williams studied her with new attention, clearly processing this information against her assumptions about Miranda's background. "What kind of previous work involved learning about electronic warfare and jamming devices?" Before Miranda could formulate a response that would satisfy Williams without revealing classified information, the aircraft experienced severe turbulence that sent unsecured items flying throughout the cabin. Emergency lighting activated as the aircraft pitched and rolled through what felt like deliberately induced instability. In the chaos of passengers grabbing for stability and overhead compartments opening to release their contents, Miranda's carefully secured equipment shifted in her uniform pocket. The sudden turbulence caused her service jacket to gap open, and a small metallic object that had been concealed for 14 months worked loose from its hidden compartment. The CIA credentials badge fell onto the aircraft floor with a distinctive metallic sound that seemed to echo through the cabin, despite the noise of frightened passengers and aircraft systems alarms. The blue and gold badge lay clearly visible against the dark carpet, its official seal immediately recognizable to anyone with government security experience. Chief Flight Attendant Williams stared at the fallen badge in shock, her understanding of everything she thought she knew about Miranda completely shattered. Around them, other crew members and several passengers watched in stunned silence as they processed the implications of what they were seeing. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson approached, having observed the incident. "Chen, that's a Central Intelligence Agency identification badge," she said quietly, her voice carrying the careful tone of someone dealing with information far beyond their normal experience. Miranda remained motionless for several seconds, weighing her options as 14 months of cover identity collapsed in an instant. The operational security protocols she had maintained since beginning her airline assignment were permanently compromised, but the technical crisis aboard the aircraft demanded immediate action regardless of personal exposure. She bent down and retrieved the CIA badge, holding it openly for the first time since beginning her flight attendant assignment. "Williams Johnson, I need you to listen carefully," she said, her voice carrying an authority that had been carefully concealed for over a year. "I am CIA operative Miranda Chen, currently assigned to a classified counterintelligence mission involving aviation security. The passengers I've been monitoring are operating sophisticated electronic warfare equipment designed to compromise aircraft navigation and communication systems." The revelation created immediate tension among the crew members, who struggled to process the transformation of their colleague from flight attendant to federal intelligence officer. Williams found her voice first, though her expression remained shocked. "Miranda, Agent Chen, why didn't you identify yourself during the emergency briefings? We could have been coordinating with you instead of trying to handle this through standard protocols." Miranda's training took over as she shifted from maintaining cover to managing an operational crisis with exposed identity. "My mission required complete anonymity to identify and assess aviation security vulnerabilities. The technical difficulties we're experiencing aren't mechanical failures. They're the result of a coordinated electronic attack designed to test aircraft defenses." Johnson stepped closer, her expression showing professional curiosity mixed with concern. What kind of attack? And what do we need to do to protect the aircraft and passengers? Miranda pulled out specialized communication equipment that she had kept concealed during her 14 months of cover assignment. The passengers in seats 23C, 15B, and 31F are operating equipment designed to jam navigation systems, disrupt communications, and potentially override autopilot functions. We need to neutralize their capabilities immediately. Chief Flight Attendant Williams looked between Miranda and the sophisticated equipment she had revealed. How long have you been monitoring these passengers? And why didn't our security screening identify their equipment? Miranda activated her communication device and began coordinating with intelligence assets that had been monitoring Flight 447 from the ground. The equipment they're using is designed to appear innocuous during standard security screening. My mission was to identify these vulnerabilities and document how hostile actors could exploit them. The aircraft's intercom crackled with Captain Bradley's voice. All flight attendants report passenger status immediately. We're losing navigation capability and need to implement emergency procedures. Miranda made a decision that would permanently alter her role aboard the aircraft. Williams, I need to coordinate directly with the cockpit. My training includes protocols for exactly this type of electronic warfare scenario. Before Williams could respond, Miranda was moving toward the cockpit communication system. Her 14-month cover mission concluded, but her operational responsibilities just beginning. Miranda activated the cockpit communication system using authorization codes that civilian flight attendants would never possess. Captain Bradley, this is CIA Operative Chen. I'm transmitting my credentials now and requesting immediate coordination on electronic warfare countermeasures. The cockpit response came within seconds. Captain Bradley's voice showing surprise but professional acceptance. Agent Chen, your credentials are confirmed. We've been experiencing systematic failures that appear coordinated. What's your assessment of the situation? Miranda moved to a position where she could monitor the 3 suspicious passengers while maintaining communication with the flight deck. Captain, we have hostile actors operating sophisticated jamming equipment designed to compromise aircraft systems. I need authorization to implement counterintelligence protocols that will neutralize their capabilities. Chief Flight Attendant Williams observed this exchange with obvious bewilderment, struggling to reconcile the transformation of her crew member into a federal intelligence operative. Miranda, how long have you been planning for this type of scenario? Miranda continued monitoring the suspicious passengers while coordinating with cockpit crew and ground-based intelligence assets. Williams, my assignment has been to identify and assess vulnerabilities in commercial aviation security. Today's events represent exactly the kind of coordinated attack that intelligence agencies have been anticipating. The passenger in seat 23C had opened his briefcase and was assembling equipment that clearly exceeded standard business electronics. His actions were being mirrored by the woman in 15B, who had connected multiple devices in a configuration designed for electronic warfare applications. Captain Bradley, Miranda reported through the communication system, the hostile equipment is being activated in 3 separate locations throughout the cabin. I'm observing navigation jamming, communication disruption, and what appears to be preparation for autopilot override attempts. The aircraft's electronic systems responded to these attacks with increasing instability. Flight controls became less responsive, communication with air traffic control degraded further, and navigation displays showed conflicting information that could lead to catastrophic navigation errors. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson approached Miranda's position. Agent Chen, what do you need from the cabin crew to resolve this situation? Miranda appreciated Johnson's professional adaptability, recognizing that some situations required rapid adjustment to new command structures. Johnson, I need you to monitor passenger reactions while I implement countermeasures. Anyone who shows advanced knowledge of our response procedures may be part of the hostile operation. Miranda retrieved specialized equipment from a concealed compartment in her service area, revealing technology that had been hidden during 14 months of routine flight operations. The equipment included electronic warfare countermeasures, secure communication devices, and tactical coordination systems that exceeded anything available to commercial aviation. Beginning electronic countermeasures, Miranda announced, activating systems designed to neutralize the jamming equipment while maintaining aircraft operational capabilities. The response was immediate as navigation systems stabilized and communication clarity improved. The 3 suspicious passengers reacted to her countermeasures with obvious alarm. The man in 23C began rapidly disassembling his equipment, while the woman in 15B attempted to activate what appeared to be backup systems designed to overcome countermeasures. Captain Bradley's voice came through the communication system with obvious relief. Agent Chen, Navigation systems are responding normally. Whatever you're doing is working." Miranda continued her countermeasures while coordinating with intelligence assets, monitoring the flight from multiple locations. "Captain, maintain current heading while I complete neutralization of hostile capabilities." Ground assets are coordinating with French authorities for enhanced security upon landing. Chief Flight Attendant Williams positioned herself to assist Miranda while keeping other passengers calm. "Agent Chen, should we be concerned about additional threats we haven't identified?" Miranda's training and threat assessment allowed her to analyze the entire situation rapidly. Williams, "The 3 passengers I've identified appear to be the primary threat, but maintain heightened awareness. Coordinated attacks sometimes include backup personnel who activate only if primary operations fail." The passenger in seat 31F rose and moved toward the rear of the aircraft, his behavior suggesting attempt to access additional equipment or coordinate with external contacts. Miranda tracked his movement while maintaining her electronic countermeasures. "Sir, please return to your seat," Senior Flight Attendant Johnson called out, positioning herself to block his access to aircraft communication systems. The passenger ignored her instruction and continued toward the rear galley, where aircraft communication equipment could potentially be accessed by someone with technical knowledge. Miranda realized she would need to implement more direct intervention. "Johnson, that passenger is attempting to access backup communication systems," Miranda advised. "I need to intercept him before he can re-establish contact with external coordinators." Miranda secured her countermeasures equipment and moved toward the rear cabin. Her 14 months of maintaining flight attendant cover identity concluded, but her operational mission entering its most critical phase. Miranda approached the suspicious passenger with the confident bearing of someone trained in both aviation operations and intelligence confrontation. Her movement caught the attention of nearby passengers, but her professional demeanor suggested routine crew coordination rather than emergency intervention. "Sir, I need you to return to your seat immediately," Miranda said, her voice carrying authority that exceeded normal flight attendant protocols. Federal aviation regulations require compliance with crew instructions. The passenger turned to face her, his expression showing recognition that his activities had been identified and were being countered by someone with capabilities beyond standard airline personnel. "I'm just looking for the lavatory," he replied, though his positioning near aircraft communication systems contradicted this claim. Miranda moved closer, maintaining the appearance of passenger assistance while positioning herself to prevent his access to sensitive aircraft systems. "The lavatory you're seeking is in the forward cabin. I'll escort you there." Before the passenger could respond, the aircraft experienced another episode of severe turbulence that sent both of them struggling for stability. During the chaos, Miranda observed him reaching for concealed equipment while using the turbulence as cover for his movements. Her CIA training activated as she recognized the motion patterns of someone accessing weapons or sophisticated electronics designed for hostile activities. Without hesitation, she moved to intercept his access to whatever equipment he was attempting to retrieve. "Sir, I need to see what you're reaching for," Miranda commanded, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of federal law enforcement. "Identify yourself and state your purpose aboard this aircraft." The passenger's demeanor changed completely as he realized his cover had been compromised. His casual tourist appearance dissolved, replaced by the alert positioning of someone trained in operational security and potential violence. Chief Flight Attendant Williams had followed Miranda to the rear cabin and witnessed this confrontation with growing alarm. "Miranda, what's happening? Is this passenger a security threat?" Before Miranda could respond, the hostile passenger revealed his true capabilities by producing sophisticated communication equipment and attempting to re-establish contact with external coordinators. His actions confirmed Miranda's assessment that this was a coordinated attack requiring immediate countermeasures. "Williams, this passenger is part of a coordinated electronic warfare attack on commercial aviation," Miranda explained while maintaining visual contact with the threat. "I need you to alert the cockpit and prepare for potential in-flight security procedures." The passenger spoke rapidly into his communication device, using codes and language that Miranda's intelligence training allowed her to partially understand. He was reporting that their operation had been compromised by unknown intelligence assets and requesting instructions for escalated response protocols. Miranda activated her own secure communication system, coordinating with ground-based intelligence assets while maintaining observation of the hostile operative. "Control, this is Operative Chen. Hostile assets are attempting escalation procedures. Request immediate guidance on containment protocols." The response came through her secure channel with instructions that confirmed the severity of the situation. "Chen, You are authorized to implement maximum containment. Additional intelligence assets are coordinating with French authorities for enhanced landing security. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson approached the rear galley where the confrontation was developing. Agent Chen, the cockpit reports that navigation and communication systems are fully restored. Should we be concerned about additional threats? Miranda maintained her position between the hostile passenger and aircraft communication systems. Johnson, coordinate with other crew members to monitor remaining suspicious passengers. This may be a multi-phase operation with backup protocols we haven't identified. The hostile passenger completed his communication and began moving toward his seat, but his behavior suggested preparation for additional activities rather than compliance with crew instructions. Miranda recognized the tactical repositioning of someone preparing for escalated operations. "Sir, I need you to remain here until we can verify your identity and activities," Miranda instructed, using her authority as both crew member and federal intelligence operative. The passenger stopped and turned, his expression showing calculation as he assessed his options and Miranda's capabilities. "I don't recognize your authority to detain me," he replied. "I'm a passenger on a commercial flight." Miranda's response demonstrated training that extended far beyond airline operations. "I am CIA operative Miranda Chen, currently authorized to implement aviation security protocols under Federal Counterintelligence Authority. You will comply with instructions or face federal charges for interference with aircraft operations." The formal identification created immediate tension as other passengers in the rear cabin became aware that extraordinary circumstances were developing aboard their flight. Several passengers moved forward to avoid the confrontation area, while others watched with obvious curiosity and concern. Captain Bradley's voice came over the cabin intercom with an announcement designed to maintain calm while acknowledging the security situation. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are implementing enhanced security procedures in coordination with federal authorities. Please remain in your seats and follow crew instructions." Miranda coordinated with the cockpit while maintaining her confrontation with the hostile passenger. "Captain, I have one suspect contained in the rear cabin. Recommend maintaining current course to Charles de Gaulle while French authorities prepare enhanced security response." The passenger made his final decision, revealing the extent of his hostile intentions by attempting to activate additional electronic equipment concealed in his clothing. Miranda's training in counterintelligence operations prepared her for exactly this type of escalation. Her response was swift and professional, using techniques designed to neutralize threats while minimizing disruption to aircraft operations and passenger safety. The hostile operative was subdued and secured using methods that demonstrated Miranda's extensive training in both intelligence operations and aviation security. Chief Flight Attendant Williams observed this confrontation with amazement and growing respect for capabilities she had never suspected. "Miranda, your training obviously extends far beyond anything we learned in airline operations courses." Miranda secured the hostile passenger while coordinating continued countermeasures against the remaining threats aboard the aircraft. "Williams, 14 months of maintaining cover has been preparation for exactly this type of coordinated attack on commercial aviation security." With one hostile operative neutralized, Miranda coordinated comprehensive response to the remaining threats while maintaining aircraft operational security. Her 14 months of cover assignment had provided intimate knowledge of both airline procedures and passenger behavior patterns that proved invaluable for managing the complex situation. "Captain Bradley, this is Operative Chen," she reported through secure communication channels. "One hostile asset secured. Continuing assessment of remaining threats and coordinating with ground-based intelligence for landing procedures." The cockpit response confirmed that aircraft systems were operating normally, following Miranda's electronic countermeasures. Navigation, communication, and flight control systems showed full functionality, indicating that the coordinated electronic attack had been successfully neutralized. Chief Flight Attendant Williams coordinated with other crew members to implement enhanced passenger monitoring, while Miranda managed intelligence aspects of the situation. "Agent Chen, the remaining passengers you identified are showing signs of agitation. Should we be concerned about additional hostile activities?" Miranda observed the passengers in seats 23C and 15B, noting their obvious distress at the failure of their coordinated operation. Their equipment had been neutralized by her countermeasures, their communications with external coordinators had been disrupted, and their associate had been detained. "Williams, those passengers represent diminished threats now that their electronic warfare capabilities have been neutralized," Miranda assessed. "However, maintain observation until we complete landing procedures and transfer them to French authorities." Senior Flight Attendant Johnson approached with reports from other cabin areas. "Agent Chen, passengers are asking questions about the security procedures and the announcement about federal authorities. How should we respond? Miranda recognized the need to maintain passenger confidence while managing operational security requirements. Johnson, standard responses about routine security procedures in coordination with international authorities. Avoid details about intelligence operations or threat assessments. The passenger in seat 23C rose and approached Miranda's position, his behavior suggesting attempted negotiation rather than further hostile action. His briefcase remained in the overhead compartment under crew observation, its contents secured following the neutralization of his electronic equipment. "Agent Chen," he said formally, acknowledging her revealed identity. "I believe there may have been misunderstandings about our activities aboard this aircraft." Miranda evaluated his approach while maintaining tactical awareness of the remaining suspicious passengers. "Sir, your coordinated electronic warfare attacks on aircraft navigation and communication systems constitute federal crimes, regardless of your stated intentions." The passenger's response revealed sophisticated knowledge of intelligence operations and international law. "Our activities were authorized under legitimate intelligence-gathering protocols. We were testing aviation security vulnerabilities as part of a sanctioned operation." Miranda recognized this as a potential deception technique designed to create confusion about the hostile nature of their activities. "Sir, if your operation was sanctioned, you would have appropriate coordination with aircraft crew and federal authorities. Your concealment and hostile activities indicate otherwise." Chief Flight Attendant Williams monitored this exchange while coordinating with cockpit crew about landing preparations. The aircraft was approaching French airspace, where enhanced security procedures would transfer responsibility for the detained operatives to international authorities. Captain Bradley's voice came through the cabin communication system. "Agent Chen, we're beginning descent procedures to Charles de Gaulle Airport. French authorities report enhanced security teams standing by for passenger transfer and investigation coordination." Miranda confirmed the landing coordination while maintaining observation of all previously identified threats. "Captain, recommend priority handling for detained passengers and comprehensive security screening for their equipment and materials." The woman in seat 15B also approached, apparently attempting to coordinate with her associate and claiming legitimate authorization for their activities. Her sophisticated communication equipment remained neutralized by Miranda's countermeasures, preventing any additional contact with external coordinators. "Agent Chen, our operation was designed to identify aviation security vulnerabilities," she stated. "Surely intelligence professionals can coordinate appropriate resolution of this situation." Miranda's training in counterintelligence operations had prepared her for exactly these types of deception attempts. "Ma'am, legitimate security testing requires prior coordination with aircraft operators and federal authorities. Your concealed hostile activities indicate unauthorized operations." Senior Flight Attendant Johnson reported that other passengers were responding well to crew assurances about routine security procedures. The professional handling of the situation had maintained cabin stability while allowing Miranda to complete her counterintelligence mission. "Agent Chen, should we prepare for any additional security procedures during landing?" Johnson asked, recognizing that Miranda's expertise would guide their response to extraordinary circumstances. Miranda coordinated with ground-based intelligence assets while preparing for the conclusion of her 14-month aviation security assessment. "Johnson, standard landing procedures with enhanced coordination for passenger transfer. French authorities are prepared for comprehensive investigation of the attempted electronic warfare attack." The aircraft systems continued operating normally as they approached Charles de Gaulle Airport, demonstrating the success of Miranda's countermeasures in protecting commercial aviation from sophisticated electronic attacks. Captain Bradley confirmed landing clearance with French air traffic control. "Agent Chen, we're cleared for priority landing with enhanced security response. Excellent work neutralizing the threats and protecting aircraft operations." Miranda acknowledged the recognition while preparing for the transition from her airline cover identity to full intelligence operations coordination. "Captain, 14 months of cover assignment provided essential intelligence about aviation security vulnerabilities. Today's events demonstrate both the threats and the protective capabilities available to commercial aviation." The aircraft descended toward Charles de Gaulle Airport, carrying its unusual collection of passengers, detained operatives, and at least one intelligence officer toward the conclusion of a mission that had tested every aspect of aviation security and counterintelligence operations. Flight 447 landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport under enhanced security protocols as French authorities implemented comprehensive procedures for transferring the detained operatives and investigating the attempted electronic warfare attack. Miranda coordinated the handover while maintaining operational security about her extended intelligence mission. "Agent Chen," Captain Bradley said during the post-flight debriefing, "your intervention prevented what could have been a catastrophic attack on commercial aviation." The coordination between your intelligence work and our flight operations was extraordinary. Miranda accepted the recognition while preparing her classified report on 14 months of aviation security assessment. Captain, this incident demonstrates both the sophisticated threats facing commercial aviation and the protective capabilities available when intelligence assets are properly positioned. Chief Flight Attendant Williams participated in the debriefing with obvious pride in her crew's performance. Agent Chen, working alongside you during this crisis has been an education in capabilities I never knew existed within our industry. The French intelligence authorities who assumed responsibility for the detained operatives confirmed that their equipment represented sophisticated threats to aviation security. The electronic warfare capabilities they had deployed could have compromised multiple aircraft systems simultaneously, potentially causing catastrophic failures. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson expressed the questions that most crew members were considering. Agent Chen, will you be continuing your assignment with our airline, or does your revealed identity change your operational status? Miranda had anticipated this question throughout her 14-month cover assignment. Johnson, my mission was designed to identify and assess aviation security vulnerabilities through extended observation. The successful neutralization of today's threats means the assessment phase is complete. The debriefing revealed the extent of intelligence gathering that had been conducted during Miranda's airline assignment. Her reports detailed numerous security vulnerabilities, passenger behavior patterns that could indicate hostile activities, and gaps in aviation security protocols that required immediate attention. The intelligence value of your extended cover assignment has exceeded all expectations, Director Morrison stated during the classified briefing with French and American intelligence officials. Your 14 months of observation have identified systemic weaknesses that conventional security assessments never detected. Miranda's comprehensive report recommended enhanced passenger screening procedures, improved crew training for recognizing sophisticated threats, and upgraded electronic countermeasures to protect against the type of coordinated attack they had just prevented. Captain Bradley requested permission to include Miranda's heroic actions in his official flight report. Agent Chen's intervention saved not just our aircraft, but potentially prevented a coordinated attack on multiple aviation targets throughout Europe. The French authorities confirmed that the detained operatives were part of a larger network planning simultaneous attacks on commercial aviation. Miranda's intelligence gathering had provided crucial information that allowed international security agencies to identify and neutralize related threats. Chief Flight Attendant Williams expressed the sentiment of the entire crew. Agent Chen, knowing that professionals like you are protecting commercial aviation, makes every flight safer for millions of passengers worldwide. 3 days after the incident, Miranda received new assignment orders that would take her to a different operational environment. Her success in the aviation security assessment had earned recognition from the highest levels of intelligence leadership. Your next assignment involves similar deep cover operations, Director Morrison explained during her final briefing. The threats to national security continue evolving, requiring operatives who can maintain extended cover while gathering critical intelligence. Miranda accepted the new mission with the same professional dedication she had brought to her airline assignment. The 14 months of serving coffee and ensuring passenger comfort had been preparation for the moment when her true capabilities became essential for protecting innocent lives. Senior Flight Attendant Johnson organized a farewell gathering for Miranda, though the circumstances required careful management of operational security. Your service alongside our crew has been an honor, even though we're only now understanding what that service truly entailed. Miranda's departure from commercial aviation occurred with the same discretion that had characterized her arrival 14 months earlier. The quiet flight attendant who had served thousands of passengers simply disappeared, replaced by classified reports that would influence aviation security protocols for years to come. The CIA credentials badge that had fallen during Turbulence was returned to Miranda with a commendation for exceptional service undercover. Her mission had proven that the most effective intelligence gathering often came from the most unexpected sources. 6 months later, Captain Bradley received periodic briefings about security improvements implemented throughout commercial aviation. Many of the enhancements reflected recommendations that had originated from Miranda's comprehensive assessment, suggesting that her work had influenced aviation safety far beyond their single flight. The empty crew station where Miranda had worked for 14 months was eventually assigned to a new flight attendant, but Captain Bradley found himself occasionally wondering whether the replacement might also possess hidden qualifications and undisclosed mission parameters. Miranda's revelation had permanently changed his understanding of aviation security and the possibility that critical expertise might be concealed within seemingly ordinary assignments. The professional competence he had taken for granted now carried the possibility of extraordinary capabilities waiting to be revealed when duty demanded. As commercial flights continued crossing international airspace, protected by enhanced security measures that had emerged from Miranda's intelligence work, passengers remained unaware of the invisible guardians who moved among them. The flight attendants serving their beverages might be exactly what they appeared to be, or they might be something far more significant. The aviation industry continued its operations with new awareness that security required multiple layers of protection. Miranda's mission had demonstrated that the most effective guardians were often those who asked for no recognition, carrying their expertise silently until the moment when their knowledge became essential for protecting those they had been sworn to serve. In a classified facility outside Washington, D.C., Miranda Chen prepared for her next deep cover assignment, carrying with her the satisfaction of a mission successfully completed and the knowledge that her 14 months of invisible service had made commercial aviation safer for millions of travelers worldwide. The threats to national security would continue evolving, but professionals like Miranda stood ready to meet them, serving in silence until duty demanded they step forward and reveal their true capabilities. Some heroes wore uniforms that everyone could see, while others wore the disguise of ordinary service until extraordinary circumstances required them to become visible.